This is the March meeting of the Social Services Scrutiny Committee. Please note that this meeting may be recorded and broadcast via the authority's internet site. The images and sound recordings may be used for training purposes. So if we can move on now to the agenda, and do we have any apologies today? I believe Councillor Maynard-Vokes has given her apologies, but all members are present or attending remotely. Are there any declarations of interest, please, before we start the meeting? Okay, we'll move on then to the first report on the agenda, which is the safeguarding report. And I think the director is going to take us through this report. It's quite a comprehensive report. I'm sure members would have had the opportunity to have read it before coming to the meeting. So, Lisa, if you would take us through that, please.
Yeah, so I'm obviously conscious it's quite a lengthy report, and we had the workshop last week, so I don't propose to go through it in great detail because, like the chair said, hopefully you've had the opportunity to read it. So the report is around the safeguarding of children and adults in Merthyr Tydfil. Previously in Scrutiny, there were 2 or 3 reports looking at safeguarding for 23-24. This is a report just to update you on the position 24-25. The content of the report is to be discussed and noted. You'll notice there's details about the Safeguarding Reference Group, which is our internal and local meeting that involves all areas of the council, and we have various presentations. There's an update around the work of the Cwmtaf Morgannwg Safeguarding Board, which we've recently had a development day, so that's looked to some of the priorities and review of where we're at with partners. And then there's section 4, where we were, which is split into data from children and adult services. And obviously I've got officers with me today who are able to answer questions on any of those areas. Where we are now, that outlines sort of position for 24-25 and the details around MASH and the Early Help Hub and the number of contacts. And there's details in there around strategy discussions, section 1 to 6 inquiries, numbers on the Child Protection Register and CLAR, or Children Looked After, sorry, I shouldn't use acronyms. There's an update on the Cwmtaf Morgannwg exploitation strategy at 5.15. And there's also a section on professional concerns, which outlines sort of some of the themes that you might be interested in or other areas that you wish to explore in more detail. That's at 5.30, and that covers both adults and children's services. And then obviously where we want to be at section 6, and as you'd expect, we want to continue to protect vulnerable children and adults from harm, and continue to do that positive work. Section 7 outlines what we need to do next, and they're all things that are in situ and are part of our self-evaluation and our annual report. And I'll open it up for any questions.
Thank you, Lisa. Any questions, please? Councillor Tevye?
Yes, there was comment in the report about the NSPCC. What's the role of the NSPCC in the modern world? Do you have much dealings with them? You mentioned that you did.
So currently, the Safeguarding Board is working with the NSPCC around a national campaign of raising awareness around reporting incidents of child abuse. So you'll be aware of the Child T case, the case in Bridgend, and part of the recommendations of that was to do that, raising awareness for the public around how to report incidents. So part of the work we've been doing with the NSPCC is around that. They've also got a big campaign about Play Your Part, and it's from a wide range of age groups. So you've got, I always forget what it's called, what's the younger children's one, something about your pants? I can't remember. So it's sort of like, they're working in nurseries, they're working with younger children, they're working with teenagers around appropriate relationships. And there's a play that's being rolled out now in the next couple of months in the schools, so that, you know, young children are having that message about appropriate relationships. And then obviously there'll be the public raising awareness around how they report. So that's where the NSPCC comes in.
Yeah, you don't actually get referrals from them direct, usually, no.
No, not occasionally. If somebody would ring the NSPCC instead of ringing us,
fair
then
enough.
they would divert that call to us.
Oh,
But most people know that if it's an instant emergency tidbit, it would come to our front door.
oh, thanks, Tim.
Councillor Ian Thomas.
Chair, on page 8 on adult services, you're talking about the way things get referred to MASH. Do the public report directly to MASH if they've got concerns, or does it come via the police and clubs and societies and whatnot?
Hi, thanks very much for the question. We receive referrals a number of ways. A member of public can ring our duty team, our intake team, that are based in Keir Hardie Health Park, where they can make a referral from themselves or for a family member or for a neighbour if they've got consent. Or otherwise, as you mentioned, we receive information from the police, from health, or from our other partners, where then the information obviously then is risk assessed at the MASH, information gathered then, and then a joint agreement of what happens after that then initial inquiry. That could be information and advice, or that could be then the formulation then of some form of investigation by either ourselves or by one of our partners.
Right, thank you.
Just a sec. Councillor Jenkins, could you turn your camera on, please? Councillor Jenkins, I've been advised, could you leave the meeting and rejoin and accept the privacy notice which will show up?
She's left. They still call it, so yeah.
Councillor Thomas and Councillor Isaac.
Thank you, Chair. You say in the report that when complaints or people refer concerns, they're triaged. Can you tell me what you mean? Who triages them?
Hi, is that in relation to the complaints of professionals? Professional concerns?
I'm not absolutely sure because I've got my notes here, but not the original script.
So in terms of if it's an adult referral where they're triaged, what that means is that we as a local authority have got a coordinator within the MASH every day, so that they can look at the information and risk assess to see whether or not the risk meets our thresholds for investigation. We also share information with our partners, so for instance health, the police, or any other statutory and social organisations. And then we come to make a decision together then as a multi-agency to say, does the concern meet a threshold? And if not, we obviously then get that information back to the referrer. If it does, then we're obviously clear then with the referrer for the next step. And most importantly, who, it could be the police or it could be us as a local authority, takes that next step for investigation.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Thank you.
Can I continue, Chair?
Yes, sure.
There's a few sentences on for children and young people, exploitation protocol, where you say 3 people are being supported, 3 are being supported by the exploitations protocol. Because does that mean there is not a lot of gang activity, etc., in Merthyr, because it's quite a low number?
So with the exploitation, it means there are no other concerns within it. So if there are multiple concerns, perhaps regarding the parenting, they would be on the child protection route. So that they go through child protection conferences. So exploitation means there's no other concerns about parents engage with us, perhaps it's peer exploitation. So what would mean, so I can't say that there's no issues within Merthyr Tydfil with these young people with the exploitation. What it means, there are a small number of cases who meet that specific criteria where there are no other concerns. Does that make sense?
Right, thank you very much. And one final one, Chair.
Yes.
Throughout the report, you refer to audits being undertaken and referrals being dealt with. Can you just explain what the difference is between referrals and audit, please?
Yeah, so can you hear me? How's it coming through? I can never work these microphones, apologies. So in terms of the audit, an audit will be looking at a specific area of a case. So that would be, so I can ask for an audit on the reasons why children looked after have come into care. So what are the reasons for that? So it may be, looking at neglect might be one of our areas. So I realise then that neglect is an area that we need to focus on within children's services. The referral should be the contacts that are made to us. So it would be a professional making a referral in, so perhaps education referring in their concerns about that individual child or family. So, and then perhaps I might ask for an audit on a number of those, or that individual case, if that child's been on the child protection register, name's been on the child protection register for over 9 months, I might ask for an audit to look into that individual child's, the reason for that, are we working, as we should be on that family. So audits can be for different reasons.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Councillor Isaac, please.
Yes, thank you. Take you to a complaint I received last year from a resident. She felt she had safeguarding concerns for a neighbour. She reported it to the council, but she felt that she wanted to put it in writing. Now, she didn't know where to actually go, as in putting it in writing, and was thinking, is there any automatic way or automated way she could put her concerns down on the website? Now, I was thinking, and I don't mean to be disrespectful in this matter, if you look at the reporting concerns of highways, you fill in a drop-down box, as in you put your concerns in and it goes on to another screen where you fill it. You understand what I'm saying? Could this be developed for social services where they put their concerns into this type of drop-down box, but it goes to a member of the social services to triage? This way you could help the members of the public who are concerned.
I'll ask Rob to come in as well, but I think because we work on a regional basis in the MASH multi-agency, it would obviously have to be something that goes through the safeguarding board for consideration. They would need to sign that off. We do have emails that come into us via lots of different routes. For example, we've had 2 concerns raised this week from adult services perspective. They've gone into our comms team and they've sent it through to their website. and then obviously they come through to us. So whoever's on duty then forwards it. They forward it on to me, and I send it on to the relevant officer. So there is a means to do it, but certainly it's a point taken. We'll sort of perhaps think about. But I'll hand you over to Rob.
Yeah, thanks very much, Councillor Isaac. The other things that we are considering, as Lisa said, is that how can we use the role of technology at our front door? So in terms of our duty service, and yes, you know, as has been mentioned, we accept emails. If letters want to be sent to our duty team within Keir Hardie, we can do that. The key thing for us, though, in terms of safeguarding, is to make sure that we get the information as quickly as we can and as soon as we can, so that we can try and minimise the risks of people. So that's why we try and encourage a telephone call, so that we can get that information quickly, and then obviously then make that decision quickly as well, as a team. But certainly ways in which that single points of access to the authority and safeguarding are being looked at, especially as we're moving towards a new database, and perhaps the use of AI in the future.
Okay, Councillor Isaac.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but you dropped out right at the end when you were just mentioning AI.
All right, okay. So, sorry, can you hear me? Yeah. Yeah, so Merthyr, as well as the Association of Directors for all of Wales, are currently looking at a pilot of how we can use information and how we can use technology to try and assist us in the recording and the documentation of concerns to the authority. So that's ongoing as an All Wales project, and we're awaiting the outcome of that report, hopefully in the next couple of months, which obviously then we can share them with you as members, if we are to use to support and assist us in our tasks. I must stress, though, it's about supporting and assisting rather than instead of. Okay.
Yes, thank you for that. And as I say, I'll be interested in what happens in the future, because when I was in work, I had similar dealings with that similar sort of reporting for safeguarding measures, and it worked quite adequately, and it actually managed to get safeguarding concerns through to the right people quite quickly. Thanks.
Councillor Claire Jones.
Thank you, much appreciated. Going on from Councillor Isaac's question, just a question: how easy is it for a member of the public then to contact social services and have an A1 or a C1 form completed?
Okay, Councillor Jones, thank you for that question. A member of the public or one of your constituents, as I said, mentioned, they can either ring and speak to one of our duty officers. They can take the information over the telephone, and then what they do then is they transfer that information then down to our safeguarding team for discussion at the MASH, or otherwise, as I said, we can receive email or via letter. If it's in a case of a professional, in terms of a professional concern, all of the measures that I've just mentioned they can use, and they've also within our main organisations or stakeholders like health and the police, they've got designated leads where we have regular conversations so that the concerns can be raised and appraised from those professional routes as well.
Okay, so can I just ask us on top of that as well then? So if the resident that went to Councillor Isaacs wanted to remain anonymous, would Councillor Isaacs be able to have filled in the C1 or A1 form? Would a councillor, any councillor, be able to ring EDT or the desk to complete the A1 or the C1 form? Has it got to be the person who's given the initial concerns?
So in terms of your role as councillors, you do have an obligation or duty to report concerns to the local authority, so that obviously then that risk can be investigated. The only thing which would be part of the conversation, obviously, Councillor Jones, is about the reasons for anonymity from the original. But obviously that would be discussed case by case, because the important thing for us when supporting vulnerable adults or families and children is obviously the issue of consent.
Yeah, thank you. That's much appreciated. Thank you.
Councillor Jones, just to add to that, obviously, if a member of the public wanted to remain anonymous, then technically they can. We can't make them. We couldn't say. I mean, it's difficult if a neighbour is making a complaint and there are specific things like, oh, I've seen the children in the garden, then that person, when we went out, may make the assumption it was the neighbour, even though they've remained anonymous. However, if a professional, including the councillor, makes the referral on their behalf or makes a referral, then they can't remain anonymous because they're a professional. So that's the difference in the two.
Yeah, thank you for that, Lisa. As people will know, I've recently put in a C1. I didn't want to remain anonymous because if I've had those concerns, then I shouldn't be anonymous. And yeah, I appreciate everything that is being done with the safeguarding team. I would like to see safeguarding come back to Merthyr, you know, and not be down in Pontypridd. And I don't know what everyone's views are on that one, but yeah, I'll leave the rest of my things to comment. Thank you.
Just to put a point of clarity, sorry, Chair, I shouldn't step in, should I, without permission? We are sort of working from MASH, but it is on a sort of so many days a week. So, you know, very much safeguarding is in Merthyr. It's not down in Pontypridd. There's always a presence in Merthyr office for adults and for children's services. You know, we work at the Early Help Hub. There's always somebody in the office for adults and children. So there's always somebody contactable. There is a piece of work going on around the MASH and how that will look in the future. The Pontypridd police station is closing. So they're obviously looking at different office space. And obviously it's an option that, you know, a multi-agency could be placed in Merthyr Tydfil. So that is still a discussion that's taking place.
Thank you for clarifying, Lisa. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Jenkins, have you got any questions, please? Okay. I've got a few questions for various officers. The first one is in relation to paragraph 3.4. That's the safeguarding reference group. And obviously, I attend this. There are representatives from various departments of the council, Director. But do you feel that there could be representation from areas that do not now attend on a regular basis?
Okay, so I think attendance has got better over the last year. There have been gaps. We've had housing haven't attended, but I have to say they did attend the last meeting. So it is something I raise regularly at corporate management team and encourage the other directors to ask their areas to attend. We have really good attendance from some areas. So, for example, Paul Lewis is always in attendance, you know, around that prevent agenda. We have, you know, good attendance, obviously, from social services colleagues, from children and adult services. Education attends, the safeguarding lead there, and HR are always in attendance because they monitor the training and that data there. So I think if we feel there are gaps, we're raising them with those individual areas. And at the moment, I think attendance is very good.
Reason for me raising it, Director, was the fact I've attended the last few meetings in my role as chair now, and I noticed there can be the same apologies from certain areas, and that's why I thought it should be raised. And if you need any assistance with that, then I'm prepared to raise it with the Chief Executive as well. My other question, I've got quite a few here. although some have been answered by members already. In 310, you say there's a strong focus on exploitation. Could you perhaps explain, because this is a recorded meeting, what we are talking about by exploitation? If somebody could give a definition or examples of what we are talking about.
Yeah, so for children, it could be child sexual exploitation or criminal exploitation. So it could be sort of gangs or individuals using children perhaps to commit crimes, or, you know, perhaps to deal drugs or things like that. So that's kind of what we mean by the exploitation in children's side. Robert, and if you want to do adults?
Yeah, so I think in adult services meant the possible exploitation of vulnerable adults, and that could be financial exploitation, or the phenomenon that we all know of, which is cuckooing, where people are vulnerable adults, their homes are then being infiltrated by other people then for illegal activities. I think in terms of exploitation in the whole, then we include that in terms of the definitions currently of in our safeguarding. And the most important thing then obviously then is that we are working together with our partners to make sure that we're undertaking risk assessments to reduce that risk of exploitation to the individual. We've got formal processes within our police partners as well, such as MAPA, that we can use where there's individuals where there's been a formal conviction, and also there's risk assessments that we can use then where if somebody is in receipt of services from the local authority.
Thank you both. My question then, next question relates to the total number of children on the child protection register and total number of looked after children. I think paragraph 4.4 says there's been work carried out to reduce the numbers on both. Obviously, total on the child protection register, the last quarter we have is up to September, shows a drop of 20 on the register. But with regards to looked after, there appears to be a rise in the number of looked after. Is there more up-to-date figures than those?
So currently we've got 171 children looked after today.
Yeah.
So that has gone down. So when we're looking at, what I'm trying to say is, you know, 170-ish is, I think, is where we should be. We had a lot of young people who came into care for a variety of reasons. I think some of it is picking up some of the work that we hadn't done perhaps in COVID, or there's been some delays in referrals coming through us from neglect because professionals hadn't been going out. So we've picked up, so we had quite an escalation. So the work we've been undertaking for our children looked after is working on SGOs, special guardianship orders, rather than kinship sort of care orders. So we've had a significant number of children on SGOs in the last year, the highest number of SGOs, so that's helped to decrease. We're trying to focus on children placed at home, so we used to call them placement of parents, PWPs, now it's care planning, placement and case review regs, so CPPCs. So we place these young, so they're at home with parents on a care order. We've done a lot of work to take those children back to court and discharge those care orders. So that's helped to bring some of our numbers down. So we've trying to refocus where we are. So there was a blip, but we've gone back down to what I think is more reasonable numbers of children in care. What also happened is our child protection figure numbers were quite high. So some of those children then, the children on the child protection register have gone down because those children came into care. Does that make sense? Yep. So sometimes they're linked. So at the moment, what I'm saying is we've got low numbers for, I think, for Merthyr, so 73 on the child protection register at the moment. Hopefully that's going down again this week because we've got some more conferences going ahead this week, and low numbers of children looked after. So for me, that balance, so usually it's one's high, one's low, but actually they're both balanced at the lower level. So for me, that indicates a lot of work's been done to keep those figures safely lower.
Okay, thank you. My my next point is in relation to some of the bar charts that are in here. Perhaps could they be produced in a different form when they come before committee on the next occasion, if they come on another occasion? I'll give the example of number of contacts in paragraph 5.2. Looking at the bar chart there obviously there has been a reduction in the number of contacts, but looking at the bar chart, it looks as if it's only a quarter of what the original figure was. And I think it crops up in one of the other charts further in the report as well. So looking at it on face, if you look at a bar chart, it should reflect what the position is. Are you following what I'm?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, there's no worries. We'll look at it again next year.
Members follow what I'm saying, that the bar charts don't seem to reflect what the actual situation is. Okay.
Chair, can I butt in for a minute, please?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've had my hand up for a while when you were, and I'll go back to the attendance by other departments, and he went on to exploitation. My question is what other training do other departments take, for example, refuse collection have on child protection? Because they're out on the street. Our eyes are the council on the street. They could be observing things that could be of use to the council. For example, exploitation, cuckooing is one of the big ones. They could think, well, this is strange. So does refuse have a place at the table when it comes to attendance by other departments? Thanks.
So thank you, Councillor Isaac. Very good question. We do have representation from that area of the council. One of the managers attends, not necessarily every meeting, but they are in attendance. One of the things I will say is their HR liaise with all areas, and there is an expectation that everybody does the level 1 safeguarding training, so that raises their awareness around, reporting and, what to look for, any concerns that might be highlighted. And the compliance with that training is quite good in that area, because what we've done is gone down there with booklets, and rather than, because they haven't been able to access it on the laptop, HR have done it with them face to face. So they've had good sort of compliance with doing that level 1 training.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Councillor Jones, Claire Jones.
Yeah, please can I give my apologies now? My camera is completely frozen. I don't know what's going on. There's part of this I haven't heard as well. I do apologise, and I would just like to say, Councillor Julia Jenkins, she's messaged me, and I have messaged the group chat for the teams just to explain that Councillor Jenkins is unable to put on a mic, put on a camera. She can hear us, but she's unable to speak. She hasn't got anything for this report, but she has for the next report, which I have sent to Julia. So I do apologise, and I have to leave. I don't know what's going on at the moment. I know we haven't come to comment, but can I just please thank everyone for the report? You all did an exceptional job. I really cannot thank you enough. I think you're doing an absolute fantastic job anyway. You're a credit, and I do know that you have won awards as well, and I think that needs to be mentioned. And I just got to give my apologies, but due to circumstances I have to leave, and I am sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Your comments are echoed, I think, by all members of this committee. Right. I still got a couple of questions to go, if that's okay. It's with regards to the chairing of conferences, etc. I think I raised it in the workshop for public record. Is it fully explained to parents who are involved that whilst the chair may be an employee of the council, that they have a totally independent role within that conference? And do parents then recognise that?
So the chairs meet with parents prior to conference, and will discuss that any issues that they may have, any concerns or queries, there's also feedback gathered at the end and any complaints taken. So there is that definitely a discussion with that. The chairs make it clear that they have no sort of decision making in terms of budgets or structures or what can go on, or they can only make advice and help to work out a plan. So that's all laid out clearly to parents at the start of conference. Parents also have advocates who can support them and give them advice and discuss that as well with them if required.
Okay, my next and more or less my final question, I've got a couple of comments after, is in relation to level of registration. How does this reflect with, say, across Wales?
Yeah, so we were extraordinarily high sort of last year and the year before. We've now gone down to sort of, I don't know, middle of the table is right. It's really hard to compare us, isn't it, because it's per 10,000 population. So we in Merthyr, because we're so small, yet the levels of poverty and challenges within the area can have an impact on our figures and keep us at high. I think we're lower than we've been for a long time. I'm happy with where we are. And when you compare us with local authorities that are more equivalent to us, so perhaps Torfaen, Blaen y Gwent, we're certainly lower than our peers who have got the same sort of issues and levels that we are. So I'm happy with where we're being. We audit those cases. The case, some of the cases have been on for a long time, looking at the length of they come off too early or very early, why were they on? So we were really unpicking the reasons that these young people's names are on the register to make sure that those who should be are on it and those who shouldn't be, names aren't. So really trying to balance the work.
Okay, thank you. I think that's it. So I'll ask members now if they've got any comments on the report. Any comments? No comments? Well, I'd just like to echo what Councillor Claire Jones said, really. It's a very comprehensive report, thoroughly covering all aspects of both children's services and adult services, and I'd like to thank officers for the work they do and in preparing this report. Okay, we have to now decide as a committee. It's called reflections. Did we address the recommendations in each report? Well, we've looked at the recommendations, is just to note the report, and where value has been added through scrutiny. Would members agree that we have reflected on the report? And obviously we have added value, I would assume, by picking up information from that report. Councillor Isaac?
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Chair, on that. We have added, especially with the comments passed by the members as well. Yeah, I quite agree with you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So we'll move on to our second report of the day, and it's adult community learning, and I think Chris Hall is going to take it. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. This is, members will recall that we presented a report back in December. So this is a second follow-up report because the report presented in December was based upon a service self-evaluation. And at that time, we had Estin coming in and doing a full inspection of the Adult Community Learning Partnership. So this report now focuses on exactly what Estin found when they came into the service, and is able to be shared because the report has actually been published now on the Estin website. So the report details the Estin recommendations with the full report at Appendix A, and gives you the information in terms of in the introduction and background how the inspection is taken forward, because there's no longer the judgments that you would have previously found of good, satisfactory, unsatisfactory. Those don't exist anymore. They provide more of a summary judgment, so that is outlined in the introduction and the background. And in terms of where we were, just talked about how we've got to where we are currently in terms of the journey of adult community learning and the partnership over the last couple of years. Section 5 really gives you the main content of the report, which highlights the recommendations that Estyn have made, and the fact that the service will stay in a follow-up category, based mainly around one of the areas that was around the strategic leadership and management area within the Estyn framework. Section 5.3 gives you some of the information around the teaching and learning, a summary of what Estyn found. And generally their thoughts on the teaching and learning was that it was a good quality experience for our learners, and the teaching and learning was good. Wellbeing, care and support, again, they found, yes, there were some minor elements that could improve, but overall they had no concerns around the wellbeing, care, support and guidance of learners. The main thrust of the reason for the follow-up category really resided in the leading and improving, and that was because, as reported to Scrutiny at the time, the partnership hadn't actually functioned for a number of, for about 12 to 18 months, and that was for various reasons, both within the council and within some of our partners. So the summary there from Estyn's comments is provided for you in 5.51 to 5.55, and then we've outlined really where we want to be in terms of some of the items we said and we brought before the scrutiny previously, and updated those in terms of some of the actions that have already been addressed and some that are still to be done in terms of what we need to do next. I think the key element with this one, Chair, really is the partnership is not a local authority. It is a Merthyr Tydfil Community Learning Partnership. There are 3 statutory partners within that. One is the college, one is Adult Learning Wales, and ourselves. And the challenge is, and we continue to take it forward with those partners, but the challenge is getting them all to own the agenda and own the outcomes of the inspection report, because we have to develop that partnership on a sound foundation. And that was part of the issues we highlighted in the previous report, was that actually it was quite often just being dumped on the authority in order to drive it all forward and take it. So there are systems that have been put in place now to try and share that responsibility and share that way forward. So myself and Anthony can take any questions that you've have got, and we'll do our best to answer them.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. Are there any questions, please? Councillor Tubby.
Oh, for the next academic year, are you going to produce a booklet of all the courses available by the 3 partners? It was noted before that everyone did their own little thing, and it would be ideal if all the courses could be put in one document and that's circulated. Is that the plan for next year? Is it?
Like you said, I think one of the recommendations that come out of the Estyn report is that we have a central point of contact for all the community, which allows them to access information on the programmes that are currently available within Merthyr Tydfil and how they access them. It's part of our action plan moving forward is to ensure that there is a timetable of programmes that are being delivered into the community is shared with the community as well. So may that be a booklet, or I think our ideal is it goes onto the website, under the Adult Community Learning website, which makes it more accessible for the community to get that information. And then then we'll be rounding that off to make sure they understand how they can get onto those programmes and they can reach out for support if it's needed.
Thanks. Yeah.
And I'll just add to that. And I think the issue has always been, and historics would say, that every September Adult Community Learning Partnerships across Wales produce a booklet, and then courses get cancelled, so they quite often become out of date very quickly. The ability to use technology and a central point for partners to update their information would provide a more live scenario for residents to be able to access. So we're looking at both the technology and the non-technological opportunity in order to see which will work best, because recognising the fact that digital abilities are not particularly there in all of our community members.
Oh, right, but they'll all be brought together in one spot. Yes, thanks.
Councillor Ian Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. The report talks about where we want to be, And it says, the first point there is a formal partnership agreement has been signed. So presumably that's with the ACL, Council and the college. Is there a joint operating board already running? And in connection with that, where does the funding go to from the Welsh Government?
I'm not sure if this mic is on, is it? I don't know. So the funding comes into the local authority for adult community learning, and that enables us to do direct delivery of some courses, but there is no separate pot of money just for the partnership. So each of those partners, adult community learning will get allocated money directly for, adult community learning Merthyr Council will get its money allocated directly to us. The college will get the money for ESOL provision, which is their community element, direct to the college, and Adult Learning Wales gets a grant direct from Welsh Government. But none of that is hypothecated for the partnership. So the coordination of the partnership and the costs of it really rest with the local authority. But there is a board. The board, as I said, fell into a hiatus position for about 18 months because of a lack of capacity in both the LA and the college to service it. That board has been resurrected, and the partnership agreement was the starting place for that. So at the moment, the 3 statutory partners are around the table developing the post-inspection action plan and agreeing off who is going to take, well, the partnership agreement actually details who is responsible for what within the area, because previously it's just all sat with us. So we've actually negotiated with each of the partners what areas of responsibility they're going to be responsible for within the partnership framework. But that board has been narrowed to those statutory partners at first, and then may well ask other partners to join in, but they will then have to follow the same principles and processes as the statutory partners, because in the end we will all be judged by all of the partners around the table and next inspection, the next follow-up inspection.
Thank you very much. Got one more question, Chair, but I think it might be on Councillor Julia Jenkins's list. So would you prefer to take it off that, or shall I ask what I want to ask?
Oh, yeah, seen the list then.
It's on multiply.
Julia's just sent those to us.
All right.
Yeah.
No, you can ask it now.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't want to steal Julia's thunder, that's all. Is the 2 questions on the multiply programme. Is the multiply programme working as you would want it to work, i.e. not being misused for just social purposes? And is there any formal instruction to the people who run the multiply sessions as to what should be included in what they need to deliver?
Push the button, just. Okay. The multiply programme, is it delivering as we wanted? On the whole, yes. Because a key element of the multiply programme under indicator W53 was purely about getting out into the community and engaging members of the community. And under the guidance documents of the multiply under UK government was about using diverse methods to engage community members, recognising that the journey through to recognise, and I think we mentioned this the last time within the scrutiny, is getting people to recognise whether they have maths issues, skill deficits in maths, skill deficits in English, or skill deficits in IT can often be very challenging. So you have to build the confidence and the self-esteem in those individuals first to allow them to progress upwards into the more formal qualifications, particularly the ones that Welsh Government are allowed to fund, because within Welsh Government ones, they're quite high. They're called Essential Skills Wales. So getting people to move on to those courses can be quite challenging. So that opportunity Multiply gave us, which was to go out into the communities, start to build those relationships, engage people in low-level activities, whether that be looking at numeracy through cooking, numeracy through sewing, numeracy through a whole range of different lenses, allowed us to start to do that. And we're starting to see some of those individuals now coming through the system and gaining the accreditation. In terms of instructions to the staff who are delivering it, yes, we've had qualifications available through Multiply, We have insisted they're all qualified tutors within the adult community learning tutor qualifications. And they've got lesson plans, etc., to deliver. But there is a staged process through that about getting them to positions first where people will go, yes, I will engage in a formal program of learning now, rather than just jumping straight into it. The element is Multiply will close down come the 31st of March, and that will take away a lot of the different types of activities that we've been able to do over that period. And Estin recognised it within their report, how creative that had been in terms of trying to get as many community members of all different walks of life engaged and reintroduced to learning as a potential opportunity of progression. And I think that's where the success really of Multiply has been, and that's what's come from some of our partners as well, people like Tidville Training, saying they're actually engaging people that they've never been able to get to before, because there's been that flexibility. It hasn't had to be just, you have to sign up to this qualification. There's been that soft introduction and the soft progression through the system.
That's fine. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Isaac?
Yes, thanks. Adult learning takes many forms. And the college at the moment, are they thinking, or do we know if they're thinking of reintroducing the night schools that were in the past for, as I say, adults that need a different type of learning? At the moment, IT skills, math skills, English skills were mentioned, but we all know of residents and people who need teaching in things such as bricklaying, woodwork, plumbing, etc., etc. These adults sometimes have full-time jobs that they can't do in the daytime, as colleges only seem to provide these in the daytime. And when will we see this type of activity come back to Merthyr? Because there's businesses crying out for this type of skill level. And again, Welsh seems to be particularly not represented in this type of training as well. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, David. It's there is a couple of things within it. Number one is that the funding that's provided, and I'll be clear on this, the funding that's provided to Merthyr Council can only be used on maths, English and IT and essential skills. That's all we can do it on. The funding that's provided to the college, currently the funding that goes to the college for community learning in terms of what comes into the partnership is only funding ESOL provision, so English as a second or other language. And there is something that the Estin brought up within that, is that most of the courses there are actual full-time provision that's signed up to in September. Things like bricklaying and the other sort of vocational courses would actually come out of the college's core grant as a college. We don't or haven't had any discussions as yet regarding what opportunities they might be able to put on in terms of their night time, but that would be out of their core college responsibility and not really sit within the adult community learning. However, the college are going to be, or are responsible under the community learning partnership, to look at a needs assessment of what courses are needed across the county borough, and if that comes out as one of the needs, then it is something they will obviously have to consider as a college provision in terms of that evening-based classes. But we recognise the evening-based classes in the college are very, very limited.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Councillor Isaac? Any more? Okay, thank you.
No, thanks.
Chris, I've got a few questions of you. First of all, though, I want to make a comment. Well, it's a comment, but it's a question. It is a question. In many of your, no, I'll leave that a minute. I'd go on to Councillor Jenkins's questions first, and they're all around Multiply. She's sent them in. Now, I'm not sure this is beyond the remit of adult learning, because Estin deals with, in the main, monies which are coming from Welsh Government, really, isn't it? This is from UK Government. But if I go through the three, each question she's raised, obviously you can determine whether to give answers or not, or if you're able to give answers. What criteria do you insist / require to join these classes, the multiply classes?
Only one stipulation. The classes, in terms of multiply classes, are open to anybody. There is no criteria. One of the things that would happen as people get engaged, and this is from UK government guidance, is quite can be interpreted in slightly different ways. The multiply is meant to be for people who've got below a level 2 qualification within numeracy. So, for instance, Chair, that would be around a GCSE, A to C grade, if you've got below that. However, UK government recognise that people need refreshers on that. If you haven't done some of those math skills for many years, you can often need refreshers in that. So there's no other eligibility requirement around access to those courses at all. But if you deem that somebody needs refresher training, they can still access it.
Because Councillor Jenkins goes on to say then, with regards to multiply classes that has been held, that she's seen photographs on social media of ex-office workers, teachers taking part in these classes, and surely this is inappropriate use of funds.
Without knowledge of the images, Chair, I wouldn't be able to comment effectively. But again, what I would say is, often positive role modelling for individuals can work wonders in terms of taking away people's lack of, or improving people's lack of confidence. You know, there is a whole range of people who can be involved. If you take, for instance, you mentioned teachers there. We have programs through Multiply previously, which were around family learning, which was about teachers, parents, and children all sitting together learning math skills in a group environment, so that they actually is about improving the math skills of the child, but actually you're getting to the parent at the same time. So it could be that a parent is doing that with who happens to be a teacher also with their child in the situ in the school. So it would have to be on a case by case, really.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Chris. I go on to my questions now. I'm going to change the order. I think I'm going to think. Obviously, my view is the importance of today's report is the summary of findings from Estin, okay? That's in paragraph 5.1. Could you, either today or bring forward in a future report, the detail of how you're going to address those findings? Don't you've got it available today, but I think it's crucial to see how we're going forward with adult learning.
Yeah, that won't be a problem, Chair. We're currently 3/4 of the way through putting together the post-inspection action plan. It's been a little bit delayed because the college has had its own Estin inspection over the last week.
Yeah.
But what we're trying to do is, from a council perspective, as I said, it would be quite easy for us to write the post-inspection action plan, but it wouldn't give the ownership and the responsibility to remain with the college and Adult Learning Wales.
Yeah.
So we are going through that process with them, making sure that they are fully aware of what they're responsible for, what actions and what the finer detail in that plan will be. It's 3/4 of the way there, and we'll bring it back once that is actually complete, and that will give you the detail in terms of that post-inspection action plan.
When are you anticipating Estin to come back, Chris? Because there is an open end, isn't there, on it?
Yeah, the Estin will, being in a follow-up category, we would expect them to be back within 12 months.
Yeah.
And that would allow them to not only have our link inspector, because we have a link inspector on a regular basis anyway, that would just to monitor progress, but for Estin to come back in and see what progress has been made, particularly around that leadership, leading and improving.
Yeah. Chris, my train of thought may go on. Did you give a time scale on when you'll be able to bring something back to us?
In terms of the post-inspection action plan? No, I didn't give you an exact time scale, Chair.
Roughly?
I would say within a couple of months.
Yeah. For Jane to make a note of it, really,
yeah, that's fine.
To feed into our forward work programme, really. Councillor Isaac?
Yeah, sorry to butt in again, Gar. I didn't put my hand up quick enough. When the previous question was asked about multiply with and learning the lower level GCSEs, it was mentioned maths in that. Has there been any strides within the college to up the level of maths teachers that can communicate in Welsh? I know it sounds silly, but Welsh in maths is far different to Welsh in English. It's not just numbers, but it's the way they put the lesson over. And some of our pupils who have been taught in Welsh find it very difficult to do maths lessons in English. Thank you.
I'll cover on 2 points, Chair. I'm not sure in terms of the ability of the college to do that. It would fall outside the scope of the Adult Community Learning Partnership and would go back to being a core responsibility of the college in terms of what they would be able to provide. In terms of the second point, which Councillor Isaacs makes quite very well, is, you know, we're all struggling to identify tutors who can deliver, whether it be maths, numeracy, IT skills, because one of the things that Estin raised was obviously we have not had any provision of teaching basic skills or essential skills through the medium of Welsh. And that is something we need to look at over the coming year as well, in terms of looking at the demand for that and looking at whether there's even the skill set for us to be able to put those courses on if they are required.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Chris. Councillor Isaac, finished?
Yes, thanks, Gar.
Okay, thank you. Paragraph 6.2, Chris, I think you say that the partnership is meeting or will be meeting shortly again.
Yeah, paragraph 6.2, Chair.
Yeah.
The partnership is meeting. We've just had a councillor meeting today, funny enough, but that was because of the outcomes of the Estin inspection in the college, taking some time up with key partner in the college. But the partnership has been active. It has started looking at the visions and objectives in order to take that forward, because obviously one of the things that's mentioned in that paragraph is about developing a future strategy, but that will all be based around the PAP as well.
Yeah. So when you say they are meeting, how frequently are they meeting? Is it sort of set for a 12-month or 6 months?
They are set over a period of about 6 months, and they're generally at the moment they're about every 6 weeks.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And in relation to part of my final question, and before I got a comment on the report, with regards to paragraph 7, what we need to do next, are there any timescales laid out for those, or you can provide us with? If not today, perhaps you could send them to members.
Again, Chair, the PAP would have a target date within each of the areas in order for that to be monitored by the strategic board of the partnership.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Chris. And then I'll come up with a quick comment before. Oh, yeah, certainly.
There are a considerable group of adults who can't really read, write. They have problems with numeracy and IT. And it's not that they need, you know, the very basics like you would teach the children. The fact is they try to hide the problem because they're embarrassed and they know they should be able to do these things. Do you sort of recognise those people as a group, and do you try to reach them?
Yeah, we recognise the challenge, and it is about trying to get to those individuals and give them the assurance that they're not on their own and that the tutors are there to help them and individuals like them. But the challenge is to try and get to those and get that first element of recognition of I need somebody to help me to address these issues. And that's been the big challenge. And it's not one just we've faced in Merthyr, it's a challenge across Wales. Participation numbers are significantly challenging across Wales. they've been a challenge for ourselves, which is why we wanted to utilise the multiplier in the way we had, is to try and get to individuals and give them that initial. Just come in, get involved in something, and then let's build your skills from there. So it was that soft introduction. But it's not like, get into a defined group who can be identified in society. What we're reliant on is individuals who are already engaged with those people, encouraging them to get involved in learning activities that would address those basic skills deficits. Whether you're going along to the employment support projects and the council runs, and somebody notices there that there's an issue over somebody's IT skills, literacy skills, or numeracy skills, and then encouraging them, supporting them to get involved in learning to address it. But we're not seeing huge referrals, so it is really generated by tutors out in the community at the moment, in terms of finding and getting to those groups.
Could I just add, thank you. Is it possible to reach these people without asking them to come forward? Like to put stuff online which would encourage them into sort of basic learning where they wouldn't be embarrassed?
I think that's what has been done through Multiply. It's been encouraging them to get involved in something they don't see as learning. So whether it's a cooking class, whether it's a class around other topics, whether that's knitting, so whatever it might be, I think a lot of that has been very, how can I put this without getting it wrong? We need to look at a more diverse range of activities. That could be a car mechanic class, it could be anything, which would allow us to try and identify those individuals who've got skills that need to be developed in those areas. We've put a lot of publicity out through Multiply, and it's worked because it's generated lots of involvement in provision. We haven't been as active within adult community learning over the years, partly because of not the availability of funding to actually market and promote the service in the way that we would want to. But that again is something that we've got to sit with partners within the adult community learning partnership and actually put our heads together and say, right, how are we all going to market this together in order to drive up numbers involved in the provision? But we also need the support of all of the different organisations and agencies and departments to actually recognise where individuals have got basic needs around their basic skills and support them and encourage them to get involved in those learning classes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Any comments, please?
Okay. I bring my comment in now, really. It's in relation to, if you go to paragraph 531, 532, can perhaps in future reports we tighten up on terminology like most and many and be more specific?
Sorry, Chair. It's because it's taken straight out of the Estin report.
Yeah.
At the back of the Estin report, you will find a definition of most, many, few, and that will give you percentages of what that actually looks like. Do apologise. We probably should have put that in the main body of the report so you had a better idea what that actually meant. But those are the definitions Estin use when they talk about most learners is normally at over 90%. Many learners is like over 70%. But that is in the back of the report. We'll bring it into this next time. I don't expect we'll use that kind of terminology again because it's directly from the Estin report.
Thank you for that clarity, Chris. Still on that, and then maybe the same answer. 545. I think it refers to nearly all. What I can understand, it's not just the terminology, but why didn't everyone have a booklet or whatever it is?
There could be any number of reasons. Yeah, the person might not have been there that day and the tutor's then forgotten to hand it out afterwards. It's an individual element. The element of that pleases us as a service is nearly all people will have had that. There would only be the odd one for some obscure reason that hasn't.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Before we look at reflections, etc., we've had a message from Councillor Julie Jenkins to thank you for your answers, Chris. Okay, so if we move now on move on now to reflections. Do we members feel that we addressed the recommendation in the report? Okay. And where value has been added through scrutiny? Obviously, I think it has in this because we've asked for a report back on how the recommendations are going to be progressed, or actions, I should say, not recommendations. The actions are going to be progressed. So I think, is everyone in agreement? Thank you. And thank you, Chris, for presenting the report. Thanks for your attention. The forward work programme now, which is our final report. And a standing report that's discussed in every scrutiny meeting. Obviously, we are coming to the end of our final work programme for this year. There is a quarterly meeting coming up shortly. Jane, I believe is
Next week.
Next week, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Sure, it's next week.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Where we would discuss the ongoing work programme for the coming year. So if members are aware or wish something specifically to be added to the forward work programme, please get in contact with Jane or myself.
Next Wednesday.
Don't we usually do this after the annual general meeting? You may be ousted at the annual general meeting.
We start to plan, Clive.
Yeah.
Oh, so we start to plan now, even, it's the annual general meeting, yeah.
Yeah. The work programme is there, isn't it? The work programme was there that I'm following, but I wasn't chair at the start of it.
And things like this after.
We could do it. It's
We'll
just
discuss it in
yeah.
the quarterly meeting next week, Clive.
Okay, then, lovely.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. That's my agenda now.
We've got one meeting left, haven't we?
Yeah. Which most probably will be, it will be Angela's last meeting. Angela, Adult Services, is retiring. No. Right. We've done reflection, so there isn't any other business. One comment I wish to make.
You just remind
Oh,
me.
yes. I don't know if members have seen the email from Jane regarding the visit to one of our meetings by Snakes and Ladders on the 24th of April. If you haven't responded, could you do so as soon as possible? And another item, which has always been on our agenda, is having a lay member on the committee. I always feel we should have lay members. And today we have a guest with us today, Ms. Pauline Griffiths, who hopefully will be joining us at future meetings. Welcome, Pauline. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. Okay, so there's no any other business, so see you all, see you all in next week's council meeting, I expect, but see you all in social services in April now. Okay, have a nice